Good morning. I'm Gosha Puzio, Media Relations with the Ontario Provincial Police in Central Region, and I will be your moderator today. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, specifically the Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and is part of the Williams Treaty. I wish to recognize the diversity of the First Peoples of this area and to honor their stewardship. Today, this area is still home to many diverse and distinct Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to gather here today. Your home offices may be interested to know that a media release with supporting multimedia related to this investigation is available at opp.ca/news under Media Kits. We will have 4 speakers with formal remarks today. Detective Inspector Jane Conway of the Criminal Investigation Branch of the Ontario Provincial Police, OPP Acting Deputy Commissioner Carrie Dart, Ambassador Porfirio Thierry Munoz Ledo, the Consul General of Mexico in Toronto, and Kim Nisha, Executive Director of North Simcoe Victim Services. David Gloss, Director of Canada Border Service Agency, is also present with us today. Detective Inspector Conway, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you everyone for attending. My name is Detective Inspector Jane Conway, and I am a Major Case Manager with the Ontario Provincial Police Criminal Investigation Branch. This labor human trafficking investigation began with a complaint and ended with 15 victims being taken out of an inhumane situation. As law enforcement, we speak about human trafficking often to educate and raise awareness of its prevalence in Ontario. I stand here to provide a better understanding of what labor human trafficking can look like and to share the experience of those who have been exploited. The Ontario Provincial Police received a tip about potential labor abuse in November 2022. The Criminal Investigation Branch and the Provincial Human Trafficking Intelligence-Led Joint Forces Strategy, or IJFS, began investigating these allegations. Over 4 months, we uncovered that the victims were promised work at a subcontracting company in Orillia called J. Jules Enterprises Incorporated. They were promised work permits, training, housing, and a good salary. The reality was quite opposite. The victims were housed in 2 residences. As you can see from the displayed photos, the conditions of these residences were not what the victims had expected. At times, many individuals were housed in areas of limited space. Victims were also expected to purchase their own mattress, which was often shared. The place was dirty and unkept. Some of the victims were expected to clean the residence and assist with care for the accused family member. Food provided to the victims as part of the arrangements was inadequately rationed. At the second residence, the situation was not improved. Multiple victims shared a bedroom and often slept in shifts. They were expected to buy their own food, and as many were not being paid, the food was limited. When food was available, a hot plate was used to make it. The victim's fear of the accused was evident when officers arrived at the house. One of the victims said, "I don't want to see him again." The victims were afraid of the accused, but were also terrified to get help. The accused had allegedly threatened the victims that if they went to the police, they would be arrested or deported. He further threatened their families back home. The fear of arrest, deportation, or possible action toward family members are significant. The victims, aged 21 to 54, are now in a place of safety. We were able to support 15 victims thanks to the efforts of the investigative team, the OPP victim specialist, and the North Simcoe and Toronto Victim Services. As a result of the investigation, we have arrested Juan Jamie Rodriguez Miranda 59 years old of Orillia, on March 15, 2023. He has been charged with 11 counts of human trafficking of persons and 10 counts of material benefits in trafficking of persons. He remains in custody pending a bail hearing. This investigation was a coordinated response, and as with other human trafficking investigations, we could not have done it alone. Assistance was provided by the Ministry of Labour, the Mexican Consulate, the Canada Border Services Agency, the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada, or FINTRAC, the Neighbourhood Organization. We thank our partners for their continued support. If you hired J. Jules Enterprises Incorporated in the last few months, we would ask that you speak to police, as the information you provide could be useful to investigators. Call the OPP non-emergency number at 1-888-310-1122. The investigation remains ongoing, and we expect there are more victims who have yet to come forward. We encourage any victims to call us or the Mexican Consulate for support. You are not alone, and we want to help. Thank you for watching. Merci. Miigwech.
Thank you, Detective Inspector, and thank you to those joining us today. I am Acting Deputy Commissioner Carrie Dart, overseeing the Investigations and Organized Crime Command of the Ontario Provincial Police. This investigation comes down to the victims who were trafficked, used and exploited for someone else's profit. We are extremely thankful that with the support of our partners, the victims are now in a place of safety. When people speak about human trafficking in Ontario, it is often assumed to be sex trafficking. Yet labor trafficking remains a big concern in this province. It impacts us all, whether we see it or not. Sadly, it is happening. It is a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform labor through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. More detestable is that the ones who are most vulnerable in our society suffer. This includes those looking to make a new life in Canada, such as migrant workers and new immigrants, Indigenous women and girls, at-risk youth, and those who are socially or economically disadvantaged are also vulnerable. According to Statistics Canada, job vacancies after 2021 were 80% higher than before the pandemic. With this and the working population aging, high levels of immigration will be even more critical to the labor market. This leaves the province vulnerable to those looking to exploit workers. We stand here today to show that we are not fighting alone. The OPP, along with 20 municipal and First Nations police services, form the IJFS. It brings together investigators and analysts across the province to assist in identifying, investigating, and disrupting multi-jurisdictional human trafficking organizations operating in Ontario. It also embeds the IJFS victim specialist to help achieve our goal of approaching human trafficking with a victim-centered mindset, recognizing the impact and trauma that this experience has had on the individual. Human trafficking investigations rely on a coordinated response from law enforcement, the government, and community partners. We are grateful to the Government of Ontario for the necessary funding to continue this battle. To the many partners who came together for this investigation, we thank you. We cannot help victims and hold traffickers accountable without your support and continued contributions. Lastly, we want to thank the public. Every time you pick up the phone to call in a tip, whether to the police or to a human trafficking hotline, you are potentially providing someone with the opportunity to finally leave their trafficking situation. That is an incredibly noble action, and we do hope these calls are going to continue. When we work together on important community issues, we can make a lasting impact. Together, we can help others. Thank you for watching. Merci and miigwech.
Good morning, bonjour, buenos dias. Thank you very much for the invitation for being here today at the press conference. I am Porfirio Thierry Muñoz Ledo, the Consul General of Mexico in Toronto. The Consulate General of Mexico in Toronto safeguards the interests and integrity of all its nationals within its circumscription, in accordance with international consular law and with full respect of Canadian law. The Ontario Provincial Police, OPP, has presented today the investigation results related to criminal activities where at least 15 Mexican citizens were involved as presumptive victims of human trafficking with the purpose of labor exploitation. The Mexican nationals were liberated by the Ontario Provincial Policy of OPP in Orillia last November. From day one, the Consulate General was aware of the situation and established immediate communication with relevant authorities to identify their own nationals and to provide them with the appropriate consular assistance, according to Article 5 of the Vienna Convention of Consular Affairs of 1963. The Consular Office dispensed support to the presumed victims in terms of communication, interpretation, as well as information of their human and labor rights. In addition, the Consular Office provided orientation on available community support services. The Consulate General recognized the cooperative and cooperation attained with regional authorities for the effective protection of the Mexican presumptive victims, in this case, of human trafficking with the view of labor exploitation, in particular, the Ontario Provincial Police in Orillia, the Ministry of Labor of Ontario, and the Victim Services of the province. The consular representation has maintained regular communication with federal authorities as well on the matter, and with local organizations dedicated to the protection of international migrant rights. The Consulate General remains attentive to the evolution of the investigations that are currently underway and to the corresponding sanctions to be determined by the judicial authorities. The Consular Office joins the call of the Ontario Provincial Police to our migrant communities to denounce this kind of inhumane practices, mostly if they are directly affected by these contemporary and unacceptable forms of slavery. Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. I am Kim Nishaw, Executive Director of North Simcoe Victim Services, or NSVS. We are honored to support the victims of this investigation during their difficult journey. Anyone who has been a victim of human trafficking has gone through a traumatic experience and requires assistance immediately and over time. Working with the OPP, other police services, and emergency personnel, NSVS aids those who have fallen victim of a tragic event, disaster, or a crime. Labor human trafficking is not uncommon, and it is necessary that anyone who is in this situation knows that help is available. Labor traffickers use coercion, threats, and violence to force people to work long hours at little or no pay, often in unsafe working conditions. The need to provide appropriate support and assistance to these victims is vital in their recovery. We are able to apply for assistance through the Victim Quick Response Program, also known as VQRP. That program provides such things as counseling, interpretation services, short-term accommodation, cell phones, basic needs such as food, clothing, and toiletries, transportation to safety, residential treatment facility, dental care, home safety supports, and connections to appropriate agencies for ongoing assistance. Help is offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by our specially trained crisis responders in order to assist victims with their immediate needs. Crisis response volunteers provide on-scene support as well as telephone support. Together, we are dedicated to offering emotional support, practical assistance, incident-related referrals, and advocacy for all clients that require crisis assistance. We want to remind victims that our services are confidential and free of charge. Visit our website at ns-vs.com or call our office at 705-325-5578 to reach someone. If you are a victim of human trafficking, please know that you do not have to take this journey to recovery alone. Thank you.
This concludes the formal portion of this media conference. As previously mentioned, we will now follow up with virtual one-on-one interviews that have been reserved in advance. Thank you for watching. Merci, miigwech.